Welcome back to Lift You Up Inspiring Health Stories. I'm your host, Tamika Bickham, your health and happiness matchmaker. Now, before I introduce you to today's guest, you know what I'm going to ask you to do. I ask you every week. If you haven't done it already, hit the subscribe button right there on YouTube and connect with me on LinkedIn. Today, I'm talking to JP Aramouni. This is one of the most unique conversations I've had since I started this podcast, and he is the co-founder of Blue Space, which is based on a relatively new science he tells me about called Blue Mind. We're talking about everything from his time at Uber to doing a 10-day silent retreat and now being a startup entrepreneur who launched his business, a totally new concept during COVID-19. Our physical, mental, and emotional health is not just a want, it is a need for happy lives and prosperous businesses. Lift You Up is the podcast where we share inspiring health stories from business owners who are fulfilling their purpose to live their healthiest lives and helping you do the same. From former TV reporter to marketing entrepreneur and content creator, I care about sharing stories that matter and stories that connect us. I'm your host, Tamika Bickham, your health and wellness matchmaker. Well, today I am so excited to be joined by JP Aramouni. Did I get that right?
Yep, you got it.
He is the co-founder of Blue Space Group, which from my understanding is pretty new and a new concept. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tamika. Happy to be here.
So first, let's start off. I want to get to know you. We're just meeting now for the first time. So give me the whole spiel, your story, where you started, and your journey to where you are now.
I'm the co-founder of Blue Space. My other co-founder, Alex Ciklik, is also based in Miami. And so a bit about us, we both grew up near the water. Alex grew up in Miami. I grew up in San Diego on the other coast. And over the past couple of years, we both have been working in similar companies. So we both worked at Uber in different capacities in different locations. And then we worked at Reef Technology, which is a local SoftBank-backed startup based in Miami, which is where we actually met. So a bit about me, I for the past 12, 13 years, I've been helping companies build up their operations and scale across new markets. I've had a chance to do this across several different industries and sectors, and in the process, I've lived and worked in more than 20 countries, which has been an experience on its own. Before coming back to the U.S. Last year, so as part of my experience,
welcome back.
Thank you. Happy to be back. Actually, it's a bit surreal, but excited to be back.
I bet.
So as I mentioned, both my co-founder Alex and myself worked at Uber in the earlier days. Myself, I was part of the growth team at Uber. This was the team responsible for launching the business from scratch in new markets. So during my time at Uber, I had a chance to build and grow the business in several different countries, including Kenya, Morocco, Egypt, and China, specifically in Shanghai, and then did the same for Uber Eats. We launched it in some of the first new markets outside of the US, which are London and Tokyo, and had a chance to really see the growth of the business in these markets. Did something similar at another.
Is that what ended up bringing you to other countries? Your opportunity with Uber?
Exactly. I mean, it was a lifestyle that came with the job. So I would move to a new country every 2 to 3 months. Pack
my
up,
goodness.
Go there, start from scratch, help build up the operations literally from nothing. Hire the team, manage the growth of the business over the first few months, and then once it gets to a certain point, pass it on to the team, hire a GM, and then move on to the next country and do exactly the same thing. So
okay, so before we move on to the rest, give me a quick rundown. What are the countries that you lived in?
So as part of my work with Uber, I lived in Kenya, Morocco, Egypt, China, UK, and London specifically, and then in Tokyo, Japan.
That sounds amazing. I mean, really, that sounds like the dream job for a lot of people.
It was great, but like I said, it comes with a certain lifestyle, and
right.
You have to build that into your expectations. The fact that you're living out of a suitcase for quite some time is not easy, but it was an amazing experience. And you can't
really settle down and kind of build that network necessary, or your friends, or I'm sure to a certain degree it feels a little bit lonely.
Yeah, you definitely get to that. There's a whole mental health component which I'll get to in a bit, but you definitely need to put in a little more effort to keeping that balance between work and life, and especially the wellness and the mental health balance becomes more and more important the longer you carry on with this like type of lifestyle.
Traveling all over the world, living all over the world with your job at Uber, launching in new markets and Uber Eats. So what happens from there?
My last son with Uber was actually in Asia, in Tokyo specifically, and I love being in Asia. It gave me a whole new perspective on business. It was actually an amazing experience. So I decided to take on a new role with another startup in the hospitality space based out of Hong Kong. Fast forward a year or two, ended up moving back to the US, took on a role with Reef Technology based out of Miami. And that's where Alex and I met. And, we shared a lot of things in common, specifically our experience at Uber. We put our heads together and we realized that we have complementary skills and, both our interests in the health and wellness space, having grown up near the water. We started to dig into that and do a little more research and came across the idea or the science of the blue mind, which is really the major inspiration behind Blue Space. So during my time in Asia, I had a chance to really, go through a lot of experiences and journeys and retreats in the wellness space. I did a 10-day silent retreat in Bali, which really gave me a whole new perspective on my life and what I wanted to do with my life.
When did this happen? Number one, are you working with Uber at the time?
No, this was after my my experience in Hong Kong. So another crazy hyper growth startup experience. Put a lot of hours and effort, takes a toll on you eventually. And I got to the point where I wanted to just take a step back and reassess what I wanted in life. So I looked into a few different options and I came across this idea of a silent retreat, and I knew a few people that had done it. And to be honest, like the idea of silent retreat, whenever I thought about it, my immediate answer would be, if people asked me if I were interested, it would be no, of course not. And then the more I started to think about it, the more I realized, because I found it really challenging to like spend time alone. And so the idea of just being in solitude terrified me a bit. But then the more I thought about it, the more I realized, what, let me put myself up to the challenge. Maybe there's something to learn from this type of experience. So I signed up for it and I went through with it, and I ended up, showing up, not knowing what to expect, but it was literally in the middle of nowhere, a rice field in the middle of the island with some cabins. And essentially you're sleeping there with very basic essentials. It's a bed made out of, it's a concrete plate with a little thin mattress on top. You wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning by the bell ringing. Most of the day, between yoga and meditation, the hours in between, you're spending it in solitude. You're not supposed to talk to anyone. You lock up your phones, your computers. It's a complete digital detox. And the whole point is to really allow you to tap into your own mind and understand what's happening in your head. I'm
getting a little bit. I feel like I'm getting a little anxiety thinking about this digital detox, but I'm intrigued by it at the same time, because I can imagine from where you're coming from and where so many of us tend to be in our lives is we're going, and you're especially working in companies that are, like you said, this high growth stage where I'm sure you're just going a mile a minute, and now all of a sudden you're like putting a hard stop on that in a sense.
Exactly. And I realize, so many of us these days just let our careers and lives lead us, so we end up being in the passenger seats of our own lives instead of being in the driver's seat. And I realized that, and I actually wanted to just what I call recalibrate my internal compass. And so put a pause on everything and kind of start an introspective journey and think more about what it is that I wanted to do, and what kind of life do I want to live.
And how many days was it?
10.
Oh, okay. So 10 days alone and really just being with yourself. Were there low moments for you?
Actually, in the beginning, it was quite hard. It was quite hard to focus during the meditation sessions because my mind was drifting in different places. However, with practice and, with the right environment, the fact that it was a secluded environment in the middle of nowhere, literally, it really helped me get there. So I think, I reached my peak probably halfway through the retreat. And that's when I realized, what, I there's a flow now, and I can like, the thoughts are flowing. I'm getting new ideas. I'm getting more clarity on what I want to do with my life. And I think once you reach that kind of flow, you reach some kind of momentum that you actually realize the benefit of this type of experience in the end. Wellness is so broadly defined these days, but it's really a lifestyle, and it's an emerging lifestyle, and it's become so much more meaningful to a lot of people these days in the past couple of years, and more specifically in the past year with the pandemic. A lot of people are living stressed lives, and a lot of people are turning to wellness, different forms of wellness, to reconnect with themselves.
Yeah, no, I love that, especially now. And I think people are in a way being forced to kind of slow down during all of this and think. And so you had this opportunity to really be with yourself, be alone with your thoughts. The thoughts are flowing, and you had this moment of clarity. So what came out of that?
I came out of that knowing that I wanted to pursue and live a life with a purpose. I wanted to build a career with a purpose, and I wanted to do something that was impactful and life-changing for people, and something that I also enjoyed doing at the same time. So, I looked around, and I worked in a couple of different companies that touch on that in some way or another. But I realized that the true way of doing that for me was to build something. The entrepreneurial journey that we pursued with building up Blue Space has been an amazing learning experience for Alex and myself, because we've had a chance to see how to build a business from the ground up, wear multiple hats within the same hour of a given day, and really through that type of experience, learn invaluable lessons on what it takes to bring an idea to life and to build a business from the ground up.
How long ago was that, and what is the time between you kind of reaching this clarity? It sounds like you had maybe a couple of other opportunities in between, then kind of taking that dive into entrepreneurship. Kind of what's that timeline, and how long in between, like, kind of having these thoughts did you go for it?
Yeah, it was about a little over a year, I would say. Okay. And during that time, I was using it to test out different ideas, entrepreneurial ideas, work on some advisory projects, helping startups, take their business to new markets, leveraging my previous experience. And so it was a year of exploring and then figuring out, what I wanted to do and what my next step should be. So during that time is when I took the decision to move back to the U.S. after 12 years of being abroad.
Let's get back to Blue Mind. I know we briefly touched on it, so tell me a little bit more. What is Blue Mind for those who've never heard of it? I never heard of it until I'm now talking to you. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So a little bit of how we stumbled upon it. So as I mentioned, both Alex and myself grew up near the water. Alex grew up in Miami. I grew up in San Diego, and I've always lived in cities in proximity to the water. And I realized that my mood changes when I can see the water, when I'm close to the water. And having the kind of stressful jobs that I did, it always helped being close to the water in one way or another. So, when we started thinking about the idea of Blue Space, we started to dig into this a little deeper. And through our research, we came across Dr. Wallace Nichols' book and research. He's the marine biologist behind the idea of Blue Mind. Through his research and data collection, he's come to find that basically being on or near the water is a natural therapy for people to de-stress, to deconnect, to feel happier, to feel less anxious, to be more connected as human beings, and essentially to just be a better human in general, a better person, tap into our potential. And so the more research we start to do, the more we realize, this is very interesting. Let's think of how we can actually make Blue Mind accessible to more people. How do we educate more people? We thought about it and realized, a lot of people who live in cities and urban areas, a lot of these big cities are surrounded by a body of water, right? However, people don't think of the water as a place to do traditional activities. It's a place for leisure. We live and work in between four walls in traditional land. And so again, looking into this, realizing in Europe, in Northern Europe, the idea of floating communities is very common, it's very popular. However, in North America, it's just starting. So we wanted to actually build a space on the water, a private space that allows people to take advantage of this Blue Mind benefit.
I mean, I know that I've experienced that myself. I'm 15 minutes from the beach. I chose to be more east instead of west because I wanted that closer access to the water. And if I am feeling stressed, like, I don't want to go for a walk in my neighborhood. I want to go for a walk on the beach. I want to be close to the water. And I think also that's why I like what you mentioned about major cities being on a body of water. And I think that's why so many people want to live near the water, right? And why real estate is more by the water. Maybe it just subconsciously or consciously, we don't know why we like to be by the water, but I think it just makes us feel better. We just don't know the science behind it. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of cities have traditionally been built around bodies of water for different economic reasons to facilitate trade, etc. However, even though we're surrounded by these bodies of water, we don't really take as much advantage of the water as we should, in our opinion. And now with the rise of blue mind science, basically using water as mental therapy, and the rise of awareness of people wanting to address mental health issues, I think we wanted to build Blue Space as a way to bring water and wellness into one, and that hasn't been done before. And I think we're the first to do this.
So you come across Blue Mind. This is your business venture, you and Alex. So when did you start? Where are you located? How does it work? Give me the whole rundown of Blue Space Group.
Essentially, we were looking at urban waterfront spaces or underutilized spaces in these urban waterfronts as a way, how can we repurpose them and how can we bring them to life in a more applicable way for everyday people who live in cities. So we talked to almost every single marina from South Miami to North Miami to understand how the economics work, what it takes to rent a slip, what utilization looks like for different boats there. And we realized that a lot of these marinas use their slips in very traditional ways. It's a parking lot for boats, right? So similar to our experience, in our previous company at Reef, where parking lots are traditionally used to park cars, we realized, there's probably a more, a different way to repurpose this type of asset and bring it to life in a way that's more applicable to today's problem, right? So we thought about, the wellness space specifically and thinking of water as underutilized real estate. So the coast is right there. However, we don't build on the water for different reasons. If we build a space that allows people to conduct different activities on the water, then this becomes a way for them to spend more time on the water and do activities that are conducive to their mental health in this type of space on the water. And so we started to look at these different, urban waterfronts and realize that there's a different way we can look at them. We can bring life to them through a different form. And this is how the idea of Blue Space came about. And we wanted to do it in a very sustainable way. So we decided to build the first prototype out of a recycled shipping container. Staying true to our water values, and shipping containers usually spend most of their time on in the sea. So we decided to take a recycled asset, and build our first prototype from it. Spend a lot of time with different builders, in typical bootstrapping startup approach. Alex and I did everything ourselves.
That was going to be my next question. Where's the money coming from?
Yeah, so we were lucky enough to have had a bit of savings to build our first prototype, but we've been completely bootstrapping this as in true entrepreneurial sense, and did everything we could to really get the first product to market. So we did this, and we pushed through it. We had some challenges, of course, with COVID, some delays, as most businesses have. But instead of stopping, we thought about how can we change the business model? How can we pivot our focus in a way that keeps us relevant during COVID and also in life post-COVID? So prior to COVID, our focus probably was 30% on wellness, I would say. The rest of the time, the use cases we envisioned for Blue Space were, think of a working pod on the water where you can go work on the water, take your meetings on the water, do some private events.
So you launched after COVID.
We launched right in the middle of COVID. Yeah, we launched at the end of May. Okay. Initially, the idea was to launch, to be honest, in March, and then COVID happened. And like everyone else, we thought this would pass in 2 weeks. So we pushed forward with the initial focus of our company, and very quickly we realized, we have to pivot. This thing is not going away anytime soon. So.
Which means people won't be coming here to have in-person meetings on the water, which was really the focus.
People were starting to quarantine, and we realized, life is changing, and this is not going to go away anytime soon. So how do we adapt to stay relevant in today's world and also going forward in life post-COVID? So what Alex and I did is, we took a step back and we started to think about, how can we refocus or shift the focus of our business model in a way that keeps us relevant, because we put so much of our time, energy, and effort in this over the past year that it would be a shame if we had to park it because of course, something out of our control. But we wanted to, persevere and then continue pushing forward with a model that is sustainable. And that's why we decided to shift our focus entirely to the wellness space. And it's a very important space for me personally, for Alex, for a lot of people these days. And, we wanted to build something that's relevant and impactful for people today.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love that you stayed the course too, because I think so many people, understandably so, I mean, myself included, right? Like, we're all going through this, like, what the heck is happening?
Right.
What's coming next? Do I just, even me working with clients, I had clients who went out of business from one day to the next. And,
right.
People are, cutting budgets, need to, kind of hunker down, so to speak. And I had a plan actually to launch this podcast before COVID ever came around, which for me, I can do a lot of it on my own, but there are definitely costs involved and other things involved. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to stay the course, because ultimately this was all supposed to be about health, wellness, happiness, which people need even more right now. So I really feel you on what you're saying, because, it was, the plan had to change a little bit. You had to pivot a little bit, but you stayed the course because at the end of the day, you're giving people what they really need right now.
Exactly. And I think, COVID helped businesses move forward in a sustainable way. It was a true test for a lot of businesses, right? It forced you to think about, how to build a sustainable business, because of course no one can plan for a pandemic, and these things come, and maybe the economic effects go away after a while, but consumer behavior stays, and people become accustomed to doing things in certain ways. Like, for example, I believe we're going to be wearing masks for quite some time. So, here we are today, 2.5 months into launching Blue Space. As I mentioned,
how's it going?
It's been going good. Like, we've collected feedback. We see this as a pilot the first few months. It's a way for us to really learn from our customers, make sure we're building something that makes sense for them as much as it makes sense for us, and make sure that we have the right product market fit. And we've been refining our product, and our offering over the past 2.5 months we've been live. And I think, at a point now where we believe we have a very interesting value proposition for two types of customers. The first one being, people who live in urban areas, city dwellers, who are dealing with stress and anxiety. And there's stats now that show pre-COVID, 80% of people in the US that live in cities deal with stress and anxiety on a daily basis. This was pre-COVID. I can imagine now it's a lot higher, right? And so for a lot of people, they've been booking it for different occasions, and whether it's for self-guided meditation, a place to disconnect, a date night, a picnic, just an escape, a getaway. And that's how we're positioning Blue Space. It's an escape, it's a getaway from the city while remaining in the city and feeling like you're on vacation without having to travel, right? So you're sitting there on a floating space on the water. And, I've done a meditation class there with one of the instructors, and the feeling you get from, when your eyes are closed and you're doing a meditation and you're floating on the water is incredible. You come out, and you feel like you're floating for the next couple of hours. It's like, after getting a massage, you feel like you're walking on a cloud for a bit. It's the same kind of feeling, right? And changing someone's mindset and the way people feel goes a long way these days, especially now when people are dealing with a lot. And if we're able to, change the way people feel and get them to their happy place without having them to travel very far, then it means a lot to them. And of course, it makes us believe that we're moving in the right direction and we're building something very impactful for people. So the other focus for us, we realized, there's a category of entrepreneurs, wellness entrepreneurs specifically. So as you know, a lot of the instructors in the different studios and gyms that teach yoga, fitness, or whatever else, they're contractors. They're part of the gig economy, right? They're paid by the hour. They're employed to teach certain classes, and they're entrepreneurs at the end of the day. They're hustlers. They're doing what it takes to build their brand. And so what we wanted to do with Blue Space is offer it as a way as a dedicated, affordable, flexible space for these entrepreneurs to build and grow their brand without breaking the bank, right? So you don't have to go out there and invest in a long-term lease in a studio to be able to, launch your own yoga brand. And that's why we decided to structure a membership for Blue Space, specifically for these types of entrepreneurs, where they can, by becoming a member, unlock a special rate and be able to use Blue Space on a regular basis, once or twice a week, to host their own classes. And so far, we have quite a handful of these types of entrepreneurs who've signed up, and they're super happy with the feedback they're getting from their clients.
So are most of these wellness entrepreneurs, they're signing up and they're using this space and teaching virtual classes from within the space?
It's a mix. It's a mix.
Okay.
So we've had some people who are booking it to do live streaming of classes, and we've had some instructors who are booking it to host very small, intimate, private classes, that are COVID friendly, or with a group of people that know each other and they've been working out together during the past couple months. So very small, private, intimate courses where, whether it's yoga, meditation, sound healing, we've had different types of wellness activities, and we really want to offer Blue Space as a blank canvas for entrepreneurs to get creative. Any idea they have, bring it to life on Blue Space. So, wellness can mean different things for different people. Entrepreneurs are creative by nature, and we wanted to give wellness entrepreneurs a chance to really put their creativity to use and look at Blue Space as a blank canvas and build the business of their dreams in a flexible and affordable way. And so far, we've seen this with a handful of clients, and we're happy to see the impact that we're having on these types of entrepreneurs.
Well, awesome. I mean, I think you guys are obviously so creative, and I think, just like you said, building that sustainable business, finding ways to pivot and finding ways to make this work for different types of people. It sounds awesome. So what's next for you?
As you know, it's really hard to plan these days.
Yes.
With the pandemic. Who knows how things will be in a few months, but we're hoping to continue growing our existing base in Miami. We're still, very far from where we want to be. We're doing great now for, 2 months into it, but we have very ambitious goals, and we want to continue building the business to head in that direction. So getting our Miami hub to, what we have in mind in terms of our bigger vision. And then, of course, start building the foundation to grow the business beyond Miami. We think there's a very interesting value proposition here that's scalable across all cities. A lot of people who live in urban areas deal with the same issues. A lot of people share the stress and anxiety. Whether you live in New York, San Francisco, LA, Miami, you're dealing with the same type of stress and anxiety. People are looking for outlets to disconnect. And so we believe there's a very interesting value proposition that we can take to other cities. And we're already looking at a handful of cities across the U.S. to take Blue Space to over the coming year. So that's what we have in mind. And, we're hoping over the next year that we can actually follow through with this vision and bring Blue Space to other cities across the U.S.
That's awesome. Okay, I have one last question for you. So where you are now, and you think back to that silent retreat that you had and that moment of clarity, do you feel like you are much more aligned with your purpose right now?
100%. I think growing up, I was part of a very different workforce than the workforce that exists today. It's a very different generation. Growing up, I think we're taught to think that work and life are two separate things. There's a strict boundary between your working hours and the life that you have afterwards. I think over the years, especially with the rise in startups and more people becoming entrepreneurs, that boundary has become, less and less visible. A lot of people want to build a career around their life versus a life around their career. And, you first ask yourself what kind of life you want to live, and you build a career that fits that vision. And so I feel like that's kind of the transition I've had over the past couple of years. And part of that was the clarity that I got from this silent retreat and a few other discussions and experiences I've had. So I feel like I'm becoming much closer to that, and it's something I want to continue working towards.
I love it. And that's definitely inspiring. So Thank you for sharing that. And lastly, let everyone know where they can find you, connect with you, and learn more about Blue Space.
Awesome. Well, to learn more about Blue Space, you can check out our website. It's very easy. It's www.blue.space. Easy to remember, blue.space. Or connect with us on Instagram. Our handle is @BlueSpaceGroup. That's where we're most active. We'll promise we'll get back to you very quickly. Any questions you have, and if you want to come, if you're a wellness entrepreneur and you want to come try out Blue Space for one of your classes, reach out to us. We'll give you a free trial. And anytime you want to disconnect, just think of Blue Space and what we have to offer. And we're happy to bring more awareness of using nature as therapy and Blue Mind to the Miami community and to other communities going forward.
Awesome. I love it. And I'll make sure to link to all of those links and resources below in the show notes so you can easily find them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shamika. I really appreciate this.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did. I learned a lot from JP, as I do every week on this podcast. So, hey, that's why I enjoy being here every week. I hope to see you back every week. Make sure you connect with JP. His information, Blue Space's information, is below in the show notes, because who doesn't want to feel better right now? Embrace wellness right now, and especially be on the water. We all need it. So find their information, connect with them, connect with me. I'm on LinkedIn, Tamika Bickham. I want to see you there. And again, hit subscribe on YouTube. I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment, leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, all the good stuff. I want to keep making this show better for you each and every week. So until next week, when I see you back, stay happy, stay healthy.